5 More Minutes is a roguelike with a really interesting concept. Most games in this genre let you play whatever cards you draw as long as you have enough mana, but this one forces you to manage 4 different colored button inputs simultaneously, flip between hero and villain states to trigger card effects, and convert your defense into offense. And when these 3 systems intersect, you get turns where you're stacking shields, flipping alignments twice to trigger bonus damage, weaponizing those shields into a board wipe, and then manipulating your button economy to set up next turn. You can see the game is mechanically dense, but in a way that feels genuinely different. Thank you at this point to Tsugalu North for sponsoring this video, and as always for fully accepting my editorial independence. Let's take a look at the game's foundation. Every card displays colored symbols: red, green, blue and gold. These are representing controller buttons. You start each turn with one of each type. Playing a card consumes those specific buttons, and once they're gone, then you can't play anything else requiring those colors until next turn. This also means that you can't simply just fill your deck with powerful cards, because you will run out of the right inputs and sit there with an unplayable hand. The game does have manipulation tools for this. For example, sporadic click adds one button of your choice, but only works once per turn. Remap swaps one button color for another, but vanishes after one use per battle. These tools become somewhat essential, because without them, you draw hands you physically cannot execute. Running parallel to this is the alignment system. You are either a hero or villain at any moment, and cards can function completely differently based on your state. Raise Shield, for example, blocks damage and blocks extra when you're hero aligned. Mug deals damage and forces you to be villain. Fetch Quest switches you back to hero and draws a card. So the depth here comes from cards and items that trigger off the switch itself. To give a few more examples here, because this is quite important. The thing called Opportunism damages all enemies whenever you change alignment. Chaotic Neutral is Memorabilia. This is the game's version of relics that gives shields when you become hero and a different bonus when you become villain. So as you can see, you end up rapidly switching states to trigger these effects, while also making sure you're in the correct alignment for whatever big move you want to play next. Let's take a look at the third pillar, and that is offensive shields. Several cards convert your block total into damage. These cards consume your shields when they fire, but you can build entire strategies around stacking massive defense. As you probably saw by now, the combat works as expected. Enemies telegraph their next action. You plan around it properly, play your cards, and end your turn. Enemies disrupt your systems with status effects, like paralysis for example, or confusion that randomizes your button colors, or thorns that damage you back when you attack. Between fights, you make your way across a branching map with the typical stuff: regular battles, elite battles with better rewards, shops for cards and memorabilia, various upgrade stations, and random events. The elite fights guarantee memorabilia drops, which are permanent equipped effects. The genres function as character classes. Hero, cop and mascot are available. Each one has a unique starter deck built around different mechanics. Later, the game allows you to fuse genres to access cards from multiple classes and essentially create hybrid builds. There is meta progression, where leveling up permanently gives extra starting buttons and also additional health. The game does have card upgrades as well. These let you reduce button costs, add effects, or modify their properties. Some upgrades also trade penalties for bigger bonuses. Because of the dual constraints, that deck construction requires some real planning. If you take too many cards needing gold buttons, but don't include ways to generate gold buttons, then you brick. The same with alignment. The presentation frames everything as playing through old video game memories. The enemies and scenarios reference classic gaming tropes. This gives it a pretty specific identity. The game does have some clarity issues with card text. Certain effects don't clearly state whether they consume shields, which matters when planning shield to damage conversions. I also couldn't find a way to actually view my entire deck when selecting new cards, so I was kinda estimating button distribution. Also, this is probably a bug, but some tooltips don't activate when you try to check status effects. So the game's main appeal is how these 3 systems, the button management, the alignment switching, and the shield conversion, create very complex tactical decisions every turn. It feels a bit like solving a resource puzzle. The button economy alone would differentiate it already, but adding the alignment chains and offensive defense creates enough mechanical depth to stand out in a crowded genre. And this sentence concludes today's video. If your time was respected, a like or comment is very much appreciated.